Well, we're
Okay. Okay. Take your seats. Settle down. Settle down. Welcome to the Road to Concord 101. This class is about all things connected to the path of history leading from Mount Sinai to Lexington Green and the individual liberty and freedom of man. If you're in the wrong place, feel free to get up and go see the registrar's office about dropping this class, preferably before you meet the professor. In the event you do not already know this, your professor is Joe Bakanovic, and he has a bit of a reputation on campus. He is most definitely an acquired taste, but if you can learn to tolerate him, he will make you better at defending your position, whatever it may be. I'm T.A. Charlie. I'm here to help the professor, but more importantly, you. We encourage you to take notes, and if you have questions, feel free to call. If you'd like the number, please email us. You can also post your questions in the comments, and we'll get the professor's attention. Part of my job is to let you know a little bit about your professor. As I said earlier, the professor has that bit of a reputation on campus. Not all of it is good. Let me help explain a little with a story about how I came to be the professor's TA. I was invited to attend one of his classes. My first impression of the professor was that he was an egotistical, narcissistic know-it-all. My intent after only a few minutes of class was never to attend another class with this professor. But after class, Professor Joe came up to me and thanked me for my class participation and told me that my perspective was valuable, and he asked me to keep coming to class. This actually took me back a little. To me, he seemed inconsistent. What was I to do? I decided to continue coming to his classes. As I did, I actually started doing what he does encourage students to do. Check behind him and see if what he is teaching is actually correct. I have done this over and over again, and generally speaking, I found what he teaches to be backed by sound, valid, and rational arguments from reputable sources. When I have challenged him and provided a sound, valid, and rational argument in opposition to his current position, he immediately changed his position and thanked me for correcting him. Why do I tell you all this? Professor Joe is a little rough around the edges, especially in the way he delivers his content. But if you stick with him and listen to what he teaches and then go and check his sources, you will likely find, as I did, he will help you better understand the world around you and help you to think better and hopefully to live better. At least that is our hope. One last note. This class builds on itself. Therefore, it is important to attend class regularly. We will not always have time to go over previously covered material. If you are new, we suggest you watch our older classes. We've created playlists to help you with those things we feel are of special importance. Now, let's get started.
Good morning. It is Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. This is the Road to Concord, and I am Joe Bakanovic. I'm not much of a professor. It's just one of those things that other people have stuck me with, another moniker. We've got a bit of a, I don't know how to explain the show today. Something that grabbed me yesterday reading a headline. But before we do that, let me just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going here today. This is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, History of Veterans Day, because today is Veterans Day, right? I just wanted to read something real quick for you, because I don't think Veterans Day when I hear this. I think Armistice Day, because I know the history of it. I don't like when we, like President's Day instead of George Washington Day. These days are meant to be to memorialize very important things in history or people in history. And when we lump them together, we kind of lose our traditions. Oh my gosh, that goes hand in hand with conservatism, doesn't it? World War I, known as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28th, 1919. Woodrow Wilson. In the Palace of Versailles outside of the town of Versailles, France. However, fighting ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice, or a temporary cessation of hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany, went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11th, 1918 is generally regarded as the war to end all wars. That's where we get Veterans Day, folks. And I remember it as Armistice Day, because if you're in England, they have the Red Poppy Day today. It's meant to memorialize the end of the war. We can think of World War I. Well, when we do, we tend to miss the significance of that war, how badly it impacted all of Europe. A great portion of the youth of the male section of the population was killed in that war, killed or maimed. It was a horrendous conflict if you read about it. And it traumatized. It gave the whole region, all of Europe, including England, PTSD in a sense. And it directly led to World War II. The Treaty of Versailles, thanks to Woodrow Wilson, guaranteed World War II. And whether you realize it or not, this is a perfect segue into where we're going with today's class on conservatism. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned Armistice Day. And I'll explain to you a little bit later toward the end of the class how fascism came to be known as a right-wing thing and how it was actually conservatism that led to World War II. Yes, it was. Conservatism inside the fascist nations. And we'll get to all of that before the end of the show. A couple other things real quick. I forgot to tell you about this yesterday. This is from yesterday on November 10th. You know, my second birthday, the Marine Corps birthday. But that was also the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. That's that song by Gordon Lightfoot. I lived up in this part of the country at that time. I was in a place called Kinross, Michigan, which is just south of Sault Ste. Marie. And my father at that time was working civil service in the Air Force Base, Kinchlow Air Force Base. And he actually went out and helped in the search for survivors for that ship. That was a lost cause. There weren't going to be any, but this is something that I can remember from my childhood. Now let's get into today's show. Looky here. This is an I told you so from yesterday when I was talking to you about how both parties are entwined with Islam. This is a story from today. Gateway Pundit. Exclusive. Kurds stunned as former Al-Qaeda commander al-Hulani hosted at the White House. And that's this story right here. Syrian president and former jihadist leader holds historic meeting with President Trump in the White House. I guess the enemy of your enemy, right? Even if he's somebody who's still declared to end you and your ally Israel. Folks, yesterday's show wasn't very popular. I don't care. But I want to explain to you what this is right here. And this is an added insult given that statue that's behind that jihadist's right shoulder. That's Jefferson. Jefferson ran, I think it's Jefferson. That might be Washington. Let's hope this is George Washington. But I think that might be George Washington. It's hard to tell because they look a lot alike when you put them in statues. But if that's Jefferson, this is just a slap in the face to Jefferson. What you have here is a picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt meeting with Adolf Hitler during World War II. That's the equivalent. Because I don't care what he is to Trump and on the United States now. This man is part of Al-Qaeda, which is connected to ISIS, which both of them go back to Iran. And all three have avowed their ultimate goal of destroying Israel and the United States. So why is this man, who has not renounced that goal, by the way, even if he said he has, that's just a Kia. He's lying to you. Why would Trump meet with this guy? Yesterday's show was to remind you of things that most of us don't even know about or don't want to know about. That's why it wasn't a popular show. We were looking the monster in the eyeballs. So you go to theroadtoconcord.com, the blog page. Here are your show notes for today. And I've got them all listed there. It all starts with this story. I did not put this in your show notes. This is from November 10th, 2025. I found it on the Gateway Pundit. It's Gregory Lakhov. Lakhov? I don't know. Lakhov. He's a young gentleman, 16, 17 years old. He's youngest syndicated columnist in the country right now, following in the footsteps of Ben Shapiro. He says, for young conservatives' sake, stop the fighting on the right. Well, for those of you who aren't aware of this, Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro have been going at it for a while. I'm not going to read this story. Don't need to. I just want to bring this up because this is what gave me the subject matter for today's show. And I'm wondering if Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson are the modern day voices for modern conservatism. If they're the current voices for modern conservatism. Holy cow. We're in trouble. Why not Thomas Sowell or Dinesh D'Souza? Why has it got to be Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro? I know that a lot of people will think, well, you know, they're concerned. No, not in the sense you're thinking. Probably not in the sense you're thinking. Charlie, time to get stuck on the spot. Pop in here. What do you think of when you think conservatism? What define it? What's it mean to you? Please, sir.
Well, somebody that is grounded in their traditional morals and values and ideals.
Okay, well, what's that mean to America today then? If Tucker and Ben are conservatives, what's that mean?
Well, now, if you call them conservative, I would disagree with you because and this is the problem. What is your moral traditional foundation? You know, if you were to ask me, then they are not conservative in my view because they are not grounded in Yahweh's morals and traditions and
well, Ben
so
Shapiro, I don't know.
He might be a little closer, but Tucker, he's I don't know what happened to him. He's a
Christian now.
I think he had a brain aneurysm or something.
I asked Charlie to do this for a reason. It's perfect. He's perfectly illustrating the problem. What the heck does conservatism mean?
Yeah,
it makes me think of. Thanks, Charlie. Here you go, folks. This is conservatism. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. You know, Ignino or Ignorio or whatever, a Montoya or whatever from the movie Princess Bride. This is very important, folks. If you don't know what the word means, quit using it. Go learn. Figure it out. You know about me and definitions. I go back to Thomas Sowell and Dinesh D'Souza. I was introduced to Dinesh D'Souza. His family came over from India. And it's very suiting. It's very apropos because the last link I'm going to share with you today, the last blog page, you know, online web page, it deals with India and conservatism. But Dinesh D'Souza is a very good conservative in the light of, was it Buckley? If I'm not, I can't remember his first name, but very good with the modern American conservatism. He's a very solid voice, much better than Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro throws fallacies around like they're going out of business. you know, and or out of style. And I don't even think Tucker Carlson understands what logic is. He's a good interviewer, but when I sit down and I listen to Tucker, he's amorphous. He doesn't tell me what he stands for. I used to respect him, but when he got into this, I hate Christian Zionists. We're done, Tucker. Because I watched that video and he didn't even bother to really define it. So let's have a look at conservatism. Modern day conservatives think that they're conserving the founding fathers' ideology. No, they're not. No, they're not. They think that. They're told that. It's not true. Can't be. The founding fathers were classic liberals. Well, they were liberals in their day. Now we have to call it classic liberal, thanks to the progressives who have destroyed the meaning of the word. They were liberals, classic liberals, not conservatives. They're different ideologies. They're very similar on the surface, but not if you dig deeper. Our founding fathers would object to modern conservatism in a lot of ways for a lot of reasons. They weren't conservatives. So I want to get this through your head real quick. If you think modern conservative today, when somebody says, well, they're conservatives, if you're thinking founding fathers or founding ideology, wrong. William F. Buckley. Yes, JMW. Thank you very much. William F. Buckley. So conservatism is better thought of as traditionalists. Think traditional. No matter what country or culture you're in, they're traditionalists. And this is why conservatives are said to be reactionary. It's because they instinctively oppose the impulsive changes from more liberal ideologies. Now, liberalism can, when it's unchecked, when it's out of hand, liberalism, not classic liberalism even, but liberalism in the sense of modern liberalism, progressivism. It's hard to explain this, folks, because these are terms that they're catch-all phrases that are trying to catch an emotion. If you go with classic liberalism in the sense that our founding fathers had in this country, that's going to be liberalism under control, tight control. And that's the sense where we think conservatism. But if you go back to the French Revolution, where the idea of conservatism was actually born, liberalism gets out of hand there. And that's when you end up with the heads of children rolling in the streets from the guillotines. And that's where conservatism is called reactionary. So when these people come up with their great social change ideas and they try to institute social change, especially through the government, and people say, whoa, stop, man, slow down. Let's look at this. Let's talk about it. Let's debate it. That's reactionary. You're reacting to the supposed great social changes. And that's what conservatism is born with. Conserve the previous order, the law and order, the traditions, conserve the identity of whatever culture or society you're trying to change. That's so, because you have to understand that conservatism can apply to any culture, even communism. The Putin is a conservative. No, Joe, he's a communist dictator. No, he's a conservative. He's trying to preserve the Soviet order that came out of Stalin and Lenin's revolution. So in that sense, he's conservative, but he's not. He's trying to preserve what he's actually trying to preserve is their empire, not their communist ideals. Not really. Just like American progressives will say they're trying to preserve the founding ideologies of progressivism. Well, folks, that's communism in the sense of Lenin and Stalin. So Putin, his ideology is actually closer to old-fashioned democracy, the Democrats and the Republicans before the turn of the 20th century, back to the late 1800s. He's closer to that than the modern-day progressives are in this country. And this is why this is all confusing, because nobody bothers to teach this to us anymore. And there's a reason for that. If you're educated, you can't be as easily fooled or manipulated. Now, conservatism does tend to have, in general, some common characteristics, no matter what culture you find it in. First of all, it does give a nod to a creator, God, and an actively and involved God, not just a deist type God. It also has, all forms of conservatism tend to be defensive in nature, and defensive in the fact that they are trying to preserve what was or what is the existing order or the culture or the traditions. And since traditions define culture, it's the same thing. Most all conservative ideologies are based in observation, not theory. They're based in, they believe, like, for example, that human nature is fixed and it cannot be changed or altered by mankind. So it's going to be opposed to theoretical implementation of theory. Socialism is a theory. Marxism is a theory. Progressivism, these are all political theory. And this is why the conservatives tend to oppose these things. You know, I come up with a great way to reorder human nature and mankind and the way we do government. Yeah, where'd you learn this from? Oh, I was sitting in my room, you know, drinking brandy and smoking on my dope, and I come up with this great idea now. Let's just implement it. Well, you're going to upheave the whole society. Yeah, but it's great. It's perfect. It's going to be utopia. Everybody's going to live like gods. Let's do it. It's not grounded in any reality. Well, that's okay, man. I know it'll work. How do you know it'll work? I thought it up. And that's exactly, I'm making fun of it. That's exactly what the ideological battle is. That is it. That's what socialism is. Oh, I dreamed this up. Who dreamed it up? Marx dreamed it up. Why? Because he needed to justify a way of living off of somebody else. He's a leech, and he needs to make it sound all moral, like you owe it to him. That's exactly what that was. And at its heart, it's nihilistic. It destroys, it consumes. A conservative will look at this and say, every time you try these thought-up theories of yours with your bad brandy and your bad dope, you come up with a way to destroy what is. And you leave nothing but ruins in your wake. So no thank you. And the theorist will be, well, that's just because it was the wrong person drinking the bad brandy and smoking the dope, man. I had the good stuff, so my ideas are better than yours. I make fun of it, but it is real. Well, Joe, that's just because you're conservative. Yeah. I look at the world and see how it works and say, maybe we should apply some of these observations to the way we run society and even our own individual lives. That's called science. No, man, science is when I sit here and I think things up. Just like the Greek philosophers, they thought up how the world worked. You know, it was all made up of 4 elements. And that was based off of observation, and they just thought it up in their little study rooms. Yeah, and it didn't work. You don't still think that those are the 4 basic elements anymore, because it actually wasn't based off of observation. It was based off of assumption in their mind. It's all theory. It's all theoretical. That's, you know, The Brief History of Time by Hawkins, you know, saying, yeah, the universe just created itself. Prove it. Well, the math says it's theoretical math. You're taking the square root of a negative number. By definition, that's impossible. Okay. I am very hostile to this. I can think up a new way of doing things and I can mold human nature and change the nature of. I'm very hostile to that because it goes against observed reality. It's fictitious. It doesn't exist. It cannot be made to happen. It has never been made to happen in the history of mankind. And yet we never fail to have the next volunteer to step up and show us how they're going to do something that has never been done before and will never be done until this earth is remade. So yeah, that's my bias. I'm conservative in this nature. And that's why conservatism is reactionary, and it is based in observed fact and the idea that human nature is fixed. And they believe that traditions have a purpose. It's the collective wisdom of that culture. And it's there to preserve the culture and the people within it. Now, I've brought this up to you before. It's Thomas Sowell's book. This is Conflict of Visions, Ideological Origins of Political Struggle. Thomas Sowell. What he's going to tell you in here is you got two different ways of looking at the world. He calls them constrained and unconstrained. And everything flows from this way of looking at the world. Constrained means human nature is fixed by God and we can't change it. Unconstrained means human nature is not fixed and we can change it through science, science, science. Well, one of these is going to be based in, claims its basis in observation. The other one's going to claim its basis in reason alone. One of them is going to be grounded in faith. The other one's going to be grounded in science. One of them has a servant mentality, servant to our fellow man and to our creator. The other one is man is God. Guess which is which? The constrained view tends to be the conservative view. Bible believing, faith, based, observation, servant. The other one is the unconstrained. Oh, reason alone will figure this out. We got science. We can use science to manipulate the universe. Man will become his own God. Ergo, progressives. Totally hostile to that. I am. Back to the common characteristics of conservative ideology. They stress community and harmony over the individual. Well, now that's not the founding fathers. It does tend to stress the harmony and community, the survival of the entity, of the culture, of the nation, or whatever it is in question, over that of the individual. But they still believe in structure and laws and in the primacy of private property. So these are the common characteristics of conservatism. I threw up a few links for you if you wanted to go back and look at them later. This is Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica Online, Conservatism, Political Philosophy. For the most part, it sort of kind of starts with this guy here. I'm not going to try his last name, but I believe it's Francois Auguste René. French Revolution, 1832. And it'll go through a definition of conservative philosophy and political philosophy and general characteristics and all of this. And you can scroll through this, and it's quite a lengthy article. I know most of you aren't going to go back and look at it. You should, in my opinion. But I know that we are constrained in time, so I'm not going to blame anybody who doesn't. But this man here, he's an Englishman, Edmund Burke, British philosopher and statesman. He's going to come along a little bit later, and he's going to react to what's going on in France. And he's going to give us what we think of today as conservatism. He's the one who's going to formulate it. And I first got exposed to him when I was in philosophy school. And if you'll indulge me, I've got a short little anecdote I want to share with you. I've shared it before. My philosophy department, the dean was a libertarian. And then Dr. Rodriguez was the only conservative professor in the entire department. Everybody else was flaming liberals. And I mean liberal is in the progressive sense of liberal. The modern American liberalism, which has got nothing to do with classic liberalism. So Dr. Rodriguez could not wait to get me in her class because I was well known in the philosophy department as an up and coming I'd made a name for myself in the department, defending conservative ideas in class. What I thought was conservatism at the time, I was a good ditto head. I had been taught conservatism by Rush Limbaugh, who learned it from William F. Buckley, neither of which is classic liberalism. I didn't know that at the time. So she gives us this book in our class, The Philosophy of Edmund Burke, selection from his speeches and writings. And it says blah, blah, blah. And I had to read it in a week on top of everything else I was doing. This is the book. So I come in the next week and she's all smiles looking at me, waiting for me to come in. And she goes, "Did you finish the book?" She was all excited because she thought she had an ally on her hands. I said, "Yeah, I did." She goes, "What'd you think?" And I threw the book on the desk. I said, "That man's an idiot." And oh boy, that smile went away. She wasn't happy with me anymore because I was going right after her man. Why did I say he was an idiot? Well, for one thing, Edmund Burke wasn't a classic liberalist. He kind of argued like he was, but he was a conservative. And he wanted to conserve the way things were in England. Yeah, but Joe, he supposedly supported the colonies. Yes, because they had charters with the king. He wasn't supporting the colonists' political cause. He was supporting or trying to support the colonists' traditional case with the Crown of England. He was trying to support the English system that was being tried. Parliament was trying to change it because the king was a little not sound in the head and didn't have. He was kind of like Joe Biden, and he was vindictive and hostile. He was a lot like Joe Biden. And Parliament was taking advantage of the opportunity to wrest control away from the king and get some power from the king. And Edmund's sitting here going, oh, nay, nay. You can't do that. You got to keep up with what we've always had. And that's why he defended the colonies, because the colonies had a claim to their rights through the charter with the king, not Parliament. And in one of his great speeches, he stood up and he defended the right of the East India Tea Company to dispose of everybody within their charter. And he says it's because they paid good money for this charter from the King of England. So now they have the right to do whatever they want with those people and their property. It was 1/3 of the world's population at the time. And he said that they can do whatever they want with them, kill them if they wanted to, because they bought the right to do it. Then he does say, well, I think that since you have that authority, you should conduct your operations in such a way as to do good for the greater of humanity. In other words, I'm not evil. I don't want you to go torture these people and enslave them and everything. But yeah, you got the right to do this if that's what you want to do. That's conservatism, folks. And I railed against that. And me and Dr. Rodriguez, we were never friends. And that's when I started to realize that I'm not a conservative. And I never want to be. Not in that sense. And I wonder how many people in our country, when they claim to be conservatives, know that this is the historical tradition of that word. Preserve whatever is. So if Schumer is on the floor trying to preserve the gains of the Progressive Party and not let somebody take it back, he's a conservative. Every bit as much as the Republican Party claims to be conservative. The thing is, the Republican Party isn't trying to preserve the Founding Fathers' gains. They're trying to preserve the progressive gains, the right wing of the Progressive Party, the Theodore Roosevelt wing of the Progressive Party. And there's where you get that spirit of colonization that Trump has been exhibiting, because Theodore Roosevelt was a colonizer, was an expansionist, wanted to build empire. We'll continue 3 minutes when we come back from the break. Charlie? All right, welcome back. Before we move on, there's one other comment I wanted to make about old Edmund Burke. He's very Hobbesian, or his thinking, his philosophy is much like Hobbes. Once the king is established, you have no right to overthrow him unless he doesn't matter, even if he becomes a straight up tyrant. You have no right to overthrow him because you have to maintain the order and tradition. Now, Burke allowed for some change very, very slowly and gradually, what they call organically. Change over time, just natural change, like we change different types of music just because tastes change. He wanted society to change, and then government adopts those changes. And for Burke, government was supposed to support those traditions, not institute changes to them. In other words, government was there to support that which the people naturally flowed into. Well, if the king is a tyrant, there's not going to be a whole lot of social change. And therefore, the government should support the king's tyranny. That's how Burke looks at this. And the last link I'm going to show you, it deals with India. India still has its caste system. And they're going to argue that for that nation, it works. Well, that's a form of tyranny that we in the West would rail against. And yet, they'll make the case for it still works for that country. That's conservatism. So I hesitated to give you this link in your homework. This is Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. I put it in there, but boy, I don't like it. It's got a bias in it. I'm going to read just a little bit of it. It starts with conservatism and its modernizing anti-traditionalist rivals, liberalism and socialism, are the most influential political philosophies and ideologies of the post-Enlightenment era. Okay. What I don't like about this is it doesn't define liberalism. When most people today talk about liberal, and I don't like the word modernizing, folks, socialism is not a modernization. Socialism is going backwards. If you look at history, it's just putting you back under a king in the name of the people. And it doesn't happen that way. You have good kings, bad kings, depending on the socialist leaders. But socialism is it's just making you back into a serf in a different way. It's a return of a feudal system, folks. That's all it is. That's not modernization. So I don't like whoever wrote this. This is loaded language. And this is why Wilson chose progressivism, because Americans like progress, and we're modern, and we're new, and we're keeping up, and we're moving forward, and we're advancing. That's the progressive communist socialist mentality. There's nothing wrong with traditionalists. And notice how it says anti-traditionalists. Tradition is nothing more than the accumulated wisdom of mankind, or at least in that particular culture. Where do you think that wisdom came from? Experience. Well, the only way you get to the way they're using liberalism and socialism here in this article, they're the same thing. Doesn't say classic liberalism. And I got a little news flash for you. The classic liberal is not anti-traditionalist. The founding fathers were not anti-traditionalists. Our revolution was fully founded on the traditions of the English common law legal system and the rights and liberties of the Englishman. There was nothing new there. It was ancient by the time the founding fathers came along and had been in play for almost 400 or 500 years. The ideas and the thoughts. So I don't like this article here. And it's also going to, if you go down it, I put it in here for you because if you understand how to read it, it is true. What's in here is factual, but it's loaded language. But they also talk about how fascism is on the right. Well, let's stop for a minute because this has to be explained. Remember, we talk about how context is king. And like with the Bible, if you want to read the Bible in a modern Greek heritage, Western mind thinking, good, more power to you, but good luck with that, trying to understand it. It's not going to work. You're going to have to learn how to read it with an ancient Near East mindset. Well, this is how this works with conservatism, with the political spectrum. Let's go there. Political spectrum in the United States versus Europe. In Europe, the political spectrum that we think of as left and right comes from the parliament, where classic liberals sat on the left side of the house and the conservatives sat on the right. Let's look at it this way. People who wanted individual rights and liberties and less government control over their lives sat on the left. People who were supporting the monarchy and the traditional system of that nation sat on the right. That's left and right. Left is less control. The right is more control. In the United States, it's the exact opposite. So in Europe, if you are trying to maintain your nation's identity and culture, and you wanted to preserve your traditions, you were on the right. That's exactly what fascism is all about. Maintaining the cultural identity of the nation. But at the same time, they were appealing to socialism. Socialism is not a modernization. They were trying to put themselves back under a more, quote unquote, modernized version of feudalism, where, you have the king and the lords and all the lesser lords and everything, and they own these big sections of land, and you're just a serf. You're part of the land. You work on it. Well, under socialism, you have the dictator, and then you have all his favored people who own the industries, and now you become a serf to the industry. It's the same concept. It's ice cream by a different flavor. That's how they are reactionary. They were trying to oppose the movement for more individualistic liberties and rights and less government control. They were reacting to that in Europe. So that's how fascism gets on the right in Europe. That doesn't work in the United States. In the United States, the political spectrum, the farther left you go, the more total control you get. The farther right you go, the less control. So in our country, a lot of people would say, well, libertarianism is the farthest right you can get because there's no control at all. Wrong. When you actually understand libertarianism, libertarianism belongs all the way to the left of the spectrum because it's the dictatorship of the individual. So under libertarianism, you don't have no government at all. In this country, you'd have like 350 million governments. That's the Sovereign Citizen Act movement. It is a dictatorship. They'll claim otherwise, but that's how all these dictatorships themselves always work. They'll claim that I just want to leave you alone. But no, they won't. They'll turn around and say, well, taxation of any kind is theft. Well, then how do you have a government? You don't. That's dictatorship. I want all these goodies, but I don't want to pay for it. That is literally socialism. So the libertarian's a socialist, if you're looking at concept. Charlie, real quick, I want to check with this. Do you track with what I'm doing right here? If you're a libertarian, you think it's okay. You want the benefits of society, but you don't want to pay for it. What's that?
Yeah, because I was when I left the Republican Party, I was a libertarian for a short period of time. But as I got into that movement and I saw how, I mean, to go to a libertarian meeting was chaos because everybody had their own ideas and it was just total chaos. And so I'm like, no, this isn't for me. So I quickly changed and now I'm proudly no party affiliated. So I don't want nothing to do with none of them. Because everybody, everybody had their own ideas and it was each person had their own ideas and that. It's like that bumper sticker you see all the time, this coexist thing, but it doesn't work.
Charlie, are you telling me that when you went to the libertarian meetings, everybody did whatever they thought best?
Yes. Yes.
As in the days of Noah?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's tyranny, folks. It's the tyranny of the individual. The far right in the United States is actually liberalism. Classic liberalism. The way the founders founded it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
The Articles of Confederation, that was libertarian government. How long did that last?
Yeah, it didn't last
8 years.
Very long. Yeah.
Fell apart for that reason. Nobody wanted to pay their taxes or obey the laws.
Right. They couldn't enforce anything.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
So I got a couple others here for you. This is usconstitution.net. History of Conservative Thought. And this is a more modernized look at it, but key principles of conservative thought here, according to Russell Kirk: a belief in a divine intent governing society. Tradition brings society variety and mystery. Civilized society requires orders and classes. Property is connected with freedom. Humans are governed more by emotion than reason. Society should alter slowly. And the government should be constructed in such a way to make an account for all of these principles. I agree, but that's a biblical way of doing things. And this is the last link I'm going to show you. This is Poli-Sci Institute, and it uses the nation of India for its examples here, but this is actually a very good website. It says conservatism is one of the most influential yet misunderstood political ideologies of our time. Often dismissed as mere resistance to change or clinging to outdated traditions, conservatism actually represents a sophisticated worldview that has shaped governments, societies, and political discourse across the globe, including in India. At its core, conservatism is both a political attitude that favors gradual change over radical transformation and a comprehensive ideology built on specific beliefs about human nature, society, and governance. Understanding conservatism requires moving beyond surface-level assumptions to explore its deeper philosophical foundations and practical applications in contemporary politics. Now, if you want to go through that, I left it up there for you. It's a very good one, but it will also get you to why. It'll explain to you why fascism is thought to be a thing on the right. It's only on the right in Europe, or where there was an institution of the monarchy. The United States never had a monarchy. So we didn't have to go through that. We don't have reactionary control. At least we never had a monarchy other than the king. And by the time of the founding of this country, we essentially hadn't had a monarchy for a couple of decades. So what you have to do is separate yourself from the United States from Europe. There's different traditions there because of the different organic experiences. And if you read any of these articles I posted for you, you'll run into that idea, organic. Do not think organic in the sense that we are an organism like Woodrow Wilson thought. Don't think of society as a living organism. No. Please don't do that. Organic here in this sense means natural. It doesn't mean forced. It means it happens on its own. That's what it means by organic. Revolutions are not organic. They're not natural. This is why the people never rise up the way the communists want. Workers of the world unite. Let's rise up. It never happens. It has to be forced. It's not organic. It doesn't work. In observed reality, the world as we know it, when we look back through history, these things never happen organically, naturally. They never happen according to the principles of natural law. They must be forced. Conservatives oppose forced change. They prefer organic change, but that doesn't mean they're against change. They just believe that the people should be allowed to change in their culture, and that the government should then, when it sees those changes that happen organically, turn around and support them. So this is why a conservative would be against gay marriage. That did not happen organically. That was forced on us. Society did not accept that willingly. It was forced on them over decades and through the force of law in government institutions. That's why a conservative would oppose that. It's got nothing to do with whether or not they would have allowed civil unions. That could have been done through the law, but the redefinition of marriage was not organic. It went against observed reality and tradition. So that's why these things cause us so much trouble. We don't understand them. Now, a classic liberal is not a conservative. Conservative can be applied to any society, any system of government. You're just trying to preserve what was. That's why capitalism can be applied to any system of government, even communism. Well, Joe, communism, the people own the means of production. That's anti-capitalist. No, it isn't. Who owns the means of production? The people. Well, there you go. That's the capitalists. The people are the capitalists. Oopsie. when you apply the concept to what you're actually talking about, Marx was an idiot because he provided the grounds for his own destruction of his own argument. Just because a group of people own the means of production doesn't mean it's not capitalism anymore. You're anti-capitalist, you're anti-corporation, right? Well, what's a corporation, folks? It's a group of people operating as a single entity. What's communism? A group of people operating as a single entity. Charlie, please tell me how those are different.
I was following right along with you, and I'm like, oh, hold on a second. One of these things is just like the other.
It's just like the other. Thanks, Charlie. So capitalism applies to, but the free market, now that's a very different story. The free market is organic. Conservatives would defend whatever system they had when they popped into existence, but a classic liberal would defend the free market and liberty of the individual. A conservative would defend whatever system of law and order that they inherited because they're Hobbesian. But a classic liberal would say, hey, whoa. Your legal system oppresses the individual's rights and liberties. So we're against that. And the conservative would be, yeah, but the unity of the community, we've got to keep law and order and consist community over individual. Very socialistic, right? And the classic liberal would be like, to heck with community and law and order if it oppresses the individuals. Fix your law and order to be more organic. Because that system that oppresses the individual is a violation of the observed natural law. That's where all of this came from. So a classic liberal embraces many of the ideas of what we think the conservative is. But notice that the Constitution, blah, 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 that was a modern idea of conservatism. That wasn't Burkean. That's why I put it into the modern section on your class notes. That wasn't a Burkean idea of conservatism. Burke would be like, well, if I inherit Russia, then I've got to conserve Russia, communist Russia. Well, communist Russia was atheistic and centralistic and everything opposite of what those modern keynotes of conservatism are, God and blah, blah, blah. These things change over time. But if we can acquire the definitions, the original definitions, the source, if we can acquire an understanding of the fountainhead of these ideas, where they start, that'll help you sort the wheat from the chaff in the world in which you're dealing with. And it'll help you understand things. And it'll help you be able to identify people who are either confused in their thinking or lying to you. It's why when Hillary Clinton in the debates for the Democratic presidential debates years ago, when she said, I'm a progressive, as in the classic Wilsonian progressivism, I knew exactly what she was saying. She was calling herself a communist. She knows what she's saying. She was an Alinskyite. She knew darn well she's a communist. Well, I tried to tell people that, Joe, you don't know what you're talking about. Wrong. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you've been a student of this class since we've started, how many of the receipts have I brought to prove this? Charlie, do you doubt this anymore? A Wilsonian progressive is a communist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who said that, him or me?
He did.
Have I not brought the receipts?
Oh, yes. Over and over again.
When Hillary, an Alinskyite, said she's a Wilsonian, what's she saying?
Yep.
She's saying she's a communist.
Yep. Full-blown
She's
communist.
practicing communist takia. I'll lie to you to your face to get what I want. Now, a classic liberal would oppose that. But a conservative, if they're a communist, they'd support that because that's how you conserve that. That's how the system works. You lie to people. And this is why I have a problem with the modern understanding of conservatism. No, you don't have to go away, Charlie. I'm almost done with what I got to say today. I was just about to ask you comments, suggestion. The board seemed very quiet today, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's been quiet today, but yeah, it's interesting to see how we don't even understand the words we use
or the concepts behind them. Now, I got one last thing for you here, Charlie. In the sense, the last post I put up there for you, oh yeah, it does sound a lot like Islam. Islam could be you can be a conservative Muslim. In the last post, it says that one of those posts, it says that conservatism is very patriarchal. In the sense that it tends toward patriarchy, that's nothing more than the Southern Kingdom. It's very Hebraic in nature. Mm-hmm. It's strict, legalistic, not in the religious sense of legalism.
No,
it's in this is the rules you have to follow. The Pharisees were very good traditionalists, were they not?
Oh, yes, very much so, yes.
Now, classic liberalism is more individualistic, like the Northern Kingdom, which is liberal, rebellious, not to the sense of rebellious as in lawless, because neither is inherently lawless, especially in the biblical terms. But if we trace their prophetic natures, which tribes tended to be more individualistic and go do things on their own, the Northern or the Southern?
Yeah,
the Northern
tribes, yeah.
And who has given us the classic liberal tradition? It's the descendants of those Northern tribes.
Yes.
And who has given us the conservative traditions?
Yeah.
That would be the enemy, folks. Yeah. No, not necessarily the Southern. It could be the Southern, but that would be the enemy, because the Pharisees were very conservative. Yes. And who did the Messiah say they were children of?
Yeah. That's the time. Yep.
So, any questions, comments, anything that I should missed that anything you want me to address, Charlie? Or has class got anything for me? Has this been a constructive class?
Yeah, I think so. It's helped me to understand how things work a little bit better, and as far as, especially from looking at it from the European versus United States, and
that's very important.
Yeah, how they're kind of flipped.
So sometimes when people say they're conservative to me, and I dismiss them as it's a meaningless term. You understand why now?
Yeah,
means nothing to me, because you don't understand what you're saying. I know that I might run into somebody who does understand, but they probably won't use that term, not without a modifier.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I used to call myself a conservative, but I certainly won't for sure anymore.
I'm a classic liberal.
Yeah.
Now that I understand what I am, I'm a classic liberal. And I can tell you why I believe in that ideology.
Yeah.
So it takes the best of the classic liberal, in my opinion, takes the best of observed reality and revealed law, moral code, and tries to harmonize them into a culture that's self-governing, but respects the individual. You went dark, Charlie.
Yeah, I went dark.
All right, let's wrap this show up. Appreciate it, Charlie. Folks, we thank you for being here. If you like what we're doing, please hit the like buttons. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you want to keep in touch with us, we have 2 blog pages, theroadtoconcord.com, wewhoarelost.com. Road to Concord is our political side. It's our mother page, home page. We Who Are Lost is scriptural. It was born from this show. We just separated the two. You can go there, and if you want, you can sign up to either or both of the email notifications for whenever I put up posts. I will be working on the blog pages here later this week. I'm going to start trying to make them where they're a little easier to navigate and to use as a reference page to know what we're doing and keep up with what's planned in the future, and to access older material. It's going to take me a while. There's a lot to actually do there. But we would appreciate it that the like buttons, the shares, ring the bell if you're watching on YouTube, all that stuff helps the show. If you're so inclined, we would appreciate it if you would buy us a $5 cup of coffee every month. Go to the donate page wherever you find it. It's in the links on Rumble. Just go there and sign up to donate $5 every month for us, man. You have no idea how much that would help. This show is entirely funded by y'all. I've already got every penny I can afford into it on my side, and it wouldn't be enough to throw the show. With what I can afford to put into this every month, this show would not be here without your help. So those of you who do donate, oh my gosh, thank you. And if nothing else, from time to time, if you're somebody who listens and you don't donate, hey, you probably got an anonymous avatar that nobody really knows your name from your avatar. Just say thanks to the donators, or thanks to the supporters. Thank them sometimes. I know lots of us were really good, communists and socialists. We like everything for free. We don't want to pay for things. I got it. I do that myself, man. I'm not pointing fingers here. If I did, there'd be 3 pointing back at me. I'm just thank people sometimes. Be a good member of Gulch. At least acknowledge what other people are doing on your behalf. So if you like what we're doing, share the show, warn people about me, tell them whatever you want. I know I'm an acquired taste. It's not just the shtick here. I know I am. And I try hard not to be as abrasive as I am, but I cannot not be me. I've got to be me. And fire's hot, water's wet. Truth is truth. Why would you want to sugarcoat truth? That's what my life is about, trying to understand truth. And most of the time, the more I understand it, the more I realize that I'm so far outside of the truth as to don't even know why I try, but it's just the way I'm made. And I slowly work on myself, and it helps. I don't get as rattled about certain things. It helps in my thinking and my decision making. Doesn't necessarily mean I can follow through on it, but at least I know it's real, it's right, it's correct. I can defend it. It's the righteous thing to do, and it helps me realize when I'm being a hypocrite. All in all, from what I've been told by people who have known me for a long time, the process has made me into a better person. I have no doubt that it'll work for you too, especially if you're one who's been here with us for any length of time. So we love you. We thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Spread the word. The show depends on you doing that. And until we see you next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.